Just a few days to go until a possible government shutdown. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries today hitting back on threats from the Trump administration that if the shutdown occurs, it'll prompt mass firings, not just temporary
We
furloughs.
will not be intimidated by these threats coming from the most extreme parts of the Trump administration.
President Trump canceled a scheduled meeting with Democratic lawmakers on the funding earlier this week. Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy has headed to prison after he was found guilty in an international bribery scheme. ABC's Ines de la Catera has more.
This case revolves around his time as Interior Minister back in 2005. Prosecutors say that he essentially struck a deal with Libyan officials, offering up diplomatic favors in exchange for campaign finances. The court says that it couldn't actually find that any of those finances made it into Sarkozy's accounts, but they say that doesn't matter, that it's the intent that matters here.
In Florida, 2 men and their dogs were killed in an apparent lightning strike this week, say authorities. The men traveled from the Miami area with the dogs for a hunting trip when they were found dead along a trail in Highlands County Wednesday. Amazon will pay a record-setting $2.5 billion in a newly announced settlement agreement with the FTC over allegations that the company duped millions of users to sign up for its Prime program and then made it difficult to cancel. I'm Dave Packer, ABC News.
Quiet down. Here she comes. Shh. Surprise! Your accountant just emailed to say your quarterly taxes are way higher than you were expecting.
At Progressive, we know small business owners don't usually like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise that could save you money? Getting discounts with a commercial auto quote from Progressive.
Also, your favorite employee is leaving. They're going to pursue their dream of being a veterinarian.
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 8 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
Good afternoon. It's now 5:05 on this beautiful Thursday as KVNU's For the People show continues. And we'll feel right with a check of some of our top stories. Well, 4 taxing entities in Cache County have had their proposed property tax increases denied by the Utah State Tax Commission. Now, the denial stemmed from a failure to comply with new transparency and public notice requirements in the state's truth in taxation law. Now, the affected entities include the Cache County School District, Hyde Park, River Heights, and Wellsville. Now, the denial forces the school district to forego a proposed tax hike that would have generated more than $6 million in new revenue. Now, the commission announced the move this month, noting it had denied 30 entities statewide for non-compliance. Now, this is the first year the commission has had the authority to reject tax hikes following state legislation that was sponsored by Senator Chris Wilson. Now, Wilson had defended the action, saying that the law was revised to put some teeth into it and to ensure greater transparency for taxpayers. And police are continuing to investigate after they say that a Midville man shot and killed his wife before turning the gun on himself earlier this week. Now, Unified Police say they found the bodies of Eileen Lyon, a 65-year-old, and Terry Lyon, a 63-year-old, inside their home Tuesday morning after conducting a welfare check. Now, investigators determined that Eileen Lyon died from a gunshot wound and that Terry Lyon appeared to have died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Now, the Unified Police Department's Violent Crimes Unit is leading the investigation, is now working with the medical examiner to determine the timeline of the shooting. Police confirm that there is no threat to the public, calling the situation heartbreaking as they seek to provide answers to the couple's family and friends. And the Utah Olympic Park, which is famous for bobsledding and skiing, is making history this weekend as it's hosting the World Downhill Skateboarding Championship Tour for the first time. Now, the high-speed event is transforming the bobsled service road in Park City into a race course where the world's top riders are expected to reach speeds of over 70 miles an hour. Now, local competitor Micah Green described the challenge, noting that the course has a steep pitch with grades reaching above 30%. Now, to stop, riders have to be able to drift and slide their boards sideways. Now, the championship format will feature 4 riders racing head-to-head, with the top 2 advancing in high-stakes elimination rounds. Now, the competition is free for the public to watch and is starting today and continuing through the weekend at the Utah Olympic Park. Could be kind of cool to see. Well, going to enjoy a beautiful forecast for at least the next few days, as we're going to see sunny skies through the rest of the afternoon, as temperatures have been in the low 80s today. Tonight will drop into the mid 40s. Then more low 80s tomorrow with mostly sunny, clear skies. It isn't until Saturday and Sunday that we start to see a change really in the forecast, as increasing clouds beginning on Saturday. And that's going to bring a small chance of some isolated showers and thunderstorms by Sunday. And it's Mount Logan Laundry that brings you weather as part of the news here at the top of the hour. Make sure to stop in to Mount Logan Laundry to see their new huge washers and dryers. So many more to serve you and to get you in and out quicker. It's Mount Logan Laundry in Logan and Brigham City. And I'm Will Feelwright with your KVNU News headlines. KVNU News time is now 5:08, and more of KVNU's For the People show with Jason Williams coming up next.
Hey there, quick question. Wouldn't it be nice if your home stayed cool in the summer and warm in the winter without your HVAC working overtime? With Cardinal Spray Foam insulation, it can. They use an insulation that seals the gaps you didn't know you had, keeping air in, comfort up, and energy bills down. I guarantee you'll feel the difference. Plus, you could qualify for a $1,200 tax credit. Call 755-5012 or look them up online. Cardinal's Insulation, 755-5012.
Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning will give away 5 free HVAC units to local families in need for 2025. But here's the truth. This year, there were over 60 nominations, so many more families need real help. That's where you can help. Join us at the Feel the Love fundraising dinner, October 13th at the Riverwoods Conference Center. Enjoy a night of dueling pianos, a silent auction, raffle prizes, and a delicious dinner, knowing that 100% of all funds raised go directly to helping more families receive free HVAC units in 2026. Tickets are just $60 per person or $400 for a table of 8. Get yours now at mountainvalleyhvac.com. Mountain Valley Heating and Air invites you to feel the love at a fundraising dinner October 13th at the Riverwoods Conference Center. A huge thanks to the Riverwoods Conference Center for helping to make this event possible. Let's bring a warm home to more families in need.
Sail with Princess Cruises for unforgettable destinations, luxury amenities, and world-class service. From the Caribbean to Alaska to Europe and Asia, every Princess Cruise is a dream come true. Book your cruise today with Morris Columbus Travel, your vacation experts. Visit morriscolumbus.com.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
Join us Saturday, October 11th at Heritage Park in Nibley for USA Project Valor's Run, Walk, and Ride, raising money to support Utah's aging, homeless, and USU student veterans. The 5K starts at 8, the 10K bike ride at 9:15. Sign up now at batizzo.org or sign up at the event. Bring the whole family for games, food trucks, live music, a car show, and prize giveaways. Be part of a community that gives back to those who served. Register today at batizzo.org. That's BADIZO.org.
Hear that? That's the sound of a sad bird. He says your trees are so overgrown and ragged, he can't find a place to perch and sing you a happy song. Hear that? That bird is warning you. He says if you don't prune your branches before the next windstorm, they might end up in your living room. Yep, another talking bird. This one says call Hall Tree Care. Smart birds. Call Hall Tree Care and get 10% off. 760-6587. That's 760-6587.
As a lifelong Idahoan, I know the importance of defending our values and protecting our way of life. I'm Congressman Mike Simpson, and I'm proud to work alongside President Trump to deliver our conservative agenda for Idaho families, driving down inflation, securing the border, and returning to American energy independence. It's an honor to be your voice in Congress and to fight for a stronger, safer, and more prosperous nation. To learn more about my work in Washington and across Idaho, visit simpson.house.gov.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. I'm out of the studio today, so we're revisiting some of our favorite interviews, most important and impactful interviews over the last several weeks. Before the start of the hour here, in hour one, you heard from Tremont and Mayor Lyle Holmgren. He visited with us just a bit ago about everything the community is doing to support the family of the alleged shooter in the killing of 2 Tremont and Garland police officers and the wounding of a third and his canine partner from the Bucks Elder Sheriff's Department. But also how the community been fundraising for the families of the fallen officers, how much they'd raised in 20 minutes at the county fair. Just amazing stuff. And how you can, through service, help the community, as Holmgren said. So sticking with this topic, and also an interview that had a real impact. I know as I did the interview, but also from a response from listeners, remembering that at the heart of all this all began that fateful Sunday evening in August with a domestic violence call to 911. We reached out to our friends at CAPSA in the business of, educating and advocating and trying to do everything they can to prevent domestic violence and help those who have been affected by it. And we had a chance to speak with CAPSA's Josh Thompson. Many people that I've spoken with think of domestic violence as generally some shouting, maybe some shoving, maybe the neighbors are alerted and maybe even the police are called. And they see something like what happened Sunday evening as an outlier, an extreme that rarely happens. But the data doesn't support that, right? In fact, the data suggests that most situations involving domestic violence will most likely escalate to extreme violence, right?
Yeah, and Jason, thank you so much for having us on today, and thank you
our pleasure.
For recognizing and honoring those officers that were lost, and also recognizing that this does touch so many people in the community, from the neighbors to those in the home. It is far-reaching. You touched on some of the lethality that there can be with domestic violence and the different forms that it can take. Domestic violence and abuse are all about control, and so you can see a lot of different ways that abusers will control somebody. Sometimes it is that shouting, but it can lead to emotional abuse. It can lead to financial abuse. And when it starts to turn lethal is when people start to try to make changes and abusers lose control. You talked about some of the ways that CAPS is a leader and for legislation. There's something called the lethality assessment protocol that Lieutenant Governor Henderson actually just talked about this week.
Sure.
That's a mandate statewide for law enforcement to ask victims of domestic violence on the scene to assess how lethal the situation really is. That's something that CAPSA started piloting for the state. They were one of a handful of organizations that started piloting it back in 2015, and it was put into law in June of 23. And yeah, you're right. The numbers show that there are a lot of situations that turn quite violent.
Sure. And on the flip side of that, this is why I struggled with how to sort of present that, because it's easy to look at the data and say domestic violence is always going to escalate. Your only option is escape, which CAPSA has some amazing resources for that we'll talk about in a second in case that is the case. But I also know from talking with you and others at CAPSA over the years that CAPSA has some resources that belie that the statistical picture that's painted. I know that through counseling services and things like that, there have been people who have actually been able to work with CAPSA and have the situation involving domestic violence end in their home, and the family stays together. So there are a lot of options here, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of different options, and that's one of the ways that CAPSA really stands out is by providing really wraparound services. So one of the things that we assist with is with casework. Somebody can come in that's experiencing domestic violence and explain their situation, and the caseworker really gives that survivor options. We give them resources so that they can know how to move forward. If the survivor says, "Hey, I think I do want to try and stay and work it out," what we do is we educate about the cycle of abuse and show, hey, here's what happened. Here's what we see will happen. What are you going to do the next time X, Y, or Z happens? What are the resources that you have? And we can present all of that. On the flip side, after we present that information, a person may see, oh, this is going to happen again and again. What do I need to do to get a protective order? What do I need to do to make an escape plan? And our caseworkers help with all of that. Whatever the survivor needs, we really present the resources so that we can help make sure that these situations don't escalate to violence.
For listeners out there, you can find more information at CAPSA.org. That is CAPSA.org. And, I know, Josh, CAPSA does resources along the lines of training. You've done them here at the radio station, so we know how to talk about these things responsibly on air. But also working with education groups, parent groups, neighborhood groups, and more. CAPSA will do these trainings. One of the reasons for that is that, again, statistically speaking, you may not know it, but you do know someone right now in your life who is experiencing domestic violence at some level. They may not have talked about it yet. You may not have seen signs yet. You may be that person and maybe not willing to talk about it yet. But CAPSA, Josh, you can work with people at any part of this process of kind of coping and accepting with the reality of the situation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting you mentioned that you do know someone who is experiencing domestic violence. 1 in 3 women in the state of Utah will experience domestic violence in their lifetime, and it is interesting to think if you were to go into a room of people and say, hey, who knows someone here that's been affected by cancer? Almost all of the hands are going to shoot up.
Sure.
And if you ask the question, hey, who do you know here that has experienced domestic violence? The likelihood of all the hands raising up is smaller because a lot of times it's hidden. And what we're trying to do with a lot of this education is to help people understand, 1, that there are resources, 2, that there's not shame in being able to talk through it. One of the new education series that CAPSA has developed this year is called the Safe Adult Curriculum, and it helps adults to have shame-free conversations with kids, adults in positions of power, whether that's parents or ecclesiastical leaders, coaches. There's a lot that can be done to just have conversations to help kids feel safe and help connect with resources if something deeper is going on.
Sure. And again, for listeners out there, whether it's you, whether it's someone you know, whether you even just maybe have a question about something, a personal story. It was a coworker of mine years ago, Josh, that just kind of casually mentioned something to a group of us during a break, and it had the rest of us thinking something might be going on at that home, and we didn't know what to do. Do you stick your nose in? Do you call and report it behind their back? We had no idea what to do. We actually got that information from CAPSA. And that person was able to go get help. And that's a very common situation, right?
Yeah, that's incredibly common. And I think the most important thing that anybody can do is to really start by believing the person too. That's, domestic violence is one of the most underreported crimes in not just in Utah, but in the whole country. And a lot of it is because there's fear that they won't be believed. Or that it will come down to a he said, she said. And being able to connect with CAPSA is an incredible resource. It's confidential. It's free. You talk about calling in, so that, that number, I think you shared that number, the 435-753-2500. That's our crisis line. And
that is 24/7, right?
That is 24/7, and we get a lot of calls, and we are happy to answer them and direct people to resources. Last year alone, we got over 8,000 calls on that line. So that number goes to show a lot of things. 1, we're available and we're here to help. 2, that's a significant portion of the community that's calling in. And needing help with something. Those calls, ranged from people that were in immediate crisis to friends wondering what to do. We can connect with resources, and a lot of those resources we have right there at CAPSA.
Many people, think of CAPSA, they think of, the escape side of things, being able to get out into transitional housing, a place to stay for a bit. And that, of course, is one of the most important things CAPSA offers as a service. But again, they offer counseling services for both those victimized by domestic violence, but even perpetrators. A spouse, you and your spouse can sit down and sometimes work things out. Now, obviously, that's not going to be the case in every situation, and recognizing it and taking steps is the most important part. In fact, Josh, you and I talked about this a bit earlier today, but domestic violence is, according to Fox 13, took a look at some of the statewide homicide data, and domestic violence is the leading cause of homicide in the state of Utah. And some of the other statistics that they found show that although domestic violence can affect men and women, perpetrators are overwhelmingly male by a count of more than 6 to 1. So this is obviously, something that you could call a cultural issue, which means CAPSA is doing something very important in raising awareness, getting us all talking about this. But of course, Josh, you depend on community support to be able to do this, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the community is really the engine that gets CAPSA going. The community is the one who's supporting the victims and survivors. Really, CAPSA is here just to facilitate that help. Without support from the community, I've been with CAPSA for a relatively short time, but seeing immediately the amount of community support that we have, whether that be financial support or the amount of volunteer hours that are given, the amount of advocacy that there is. There are so many businesses that are, that have signs in their bathrooms. That's a small thing, but it's an important thing. You don't know when there's going to be someone who is right there and ready to reach out and get help. And so any touch point that the community can have to help survivors is so important. All levels of support are so important for survivors.
And you can make a donation directly at the website CAPSA.org. I've linked to that on our Facebook page. There are also at times opportunities for you to volunteer your time, but also one of the best things the community can do is spread the word on CAPSA services and talk to those in your workplace, in your family, in your neighborhood that you think might benefit from some of these services, or even just enjoy hearing about them so they can spread them on. Because this is really a cultural issue that's going to take a lot to really make a dent in, and CAPSA can't do it alone without your support. So 500, and you can find more resources as well at the website CAPSA.org. And Josh, maybe is a good place to wrap up on this. If someone out there listening right now is thinking, this might apply to me, maybe some things have happened in the home and they've been easy to justify. Oh, someone was having a bad day, or it was just that one time. What should that person's first step be if they would like to pursue getting help?
Yeah. First thing that I would recommend that person do is to call the hotline and to know that everything that we do at CAPSA is both free and confidential. We remove barriers and we serve. Please know you're not alone in this. I mean, we have people from all walks of life. Domestic violence doesn't discriminate. It doesn't. And so know that you matter, know that we believe you, and that we can and will help you. Thanks to the community, we're able to provide such a wide range of services and depth of services to really help with all of the unique situations. And just know you're not alone. The community has you. We've got you. You matter.
Sure. And Josh, thanks to you and everyone involved with CAPSA for being there, for doing what you do. Again, CAPSA has done this so well. Not only are they recognized for their financial management as a nonprofit, but also for their models. They have become the model for many legislative discussions, including, as Josh mentioned, sharing information between police departments for lethality assessment, to informing certain pieces of legislation that have and will continue to be debated at the legislative level. because of CAPSA's deep knowledge and experience with this over decades now. So support them in any way you can. Like every nonprofit, it's been a tough few years for CAPSA, and they depend on community support to keep doing what they do, from the emergency housing and transition housing to counseling services, many resources, training, and more throughout the valley, throughout all of northern Utah, and even parts of Idaho. So help them if you can. CAPSA.org, CAPSA.org, and I've linked to that on our Facebook page. And our guest, again, Development Director and Communication Officer with the CAPSA organization, Josh Thompson. And Josh, appreciate taking some time again on a Friday afternoon. I know everybody wants to kind of get out early and be into their weekend. You were nice enough to stay late for us today, but I hope we have an opportunity to speak again soon and highlight the work of CAPSA. And thank you again for your time today. Again, a conversation with Josh Thompson of CAPSA. Appreciate him taking the time to do that as we bookended the tragedy in Tremont and Garland that all started with the shooting of 2 officers taking their lives and wounding a third, and his canine partner that Sunday evening in August. And again, remembering that this was all started with a domestic violence incident and a necessary call to 911, someone needing help. Again, as Josh mentioned, if you need support or if you just want to talk, if you maybe have a coworker or friend that you think might be in a domestic violence situation, give CAPSA a call. Their support line 24/7, 753-2500. And they offer help in English and Spanish. In Idaho, dial 208-540-8536. Both numbers can be found at the top of the website, CAPSA.org. And again, thanks to Josh for stopping by. Some additional statistics on this that are just, So in Utah, according to the governor's own Intimate Partner and Domestic Violence Prevention campaign running out of the Utah Department of Health and Human Services, 14% of adults in Utah have reported at one point being physically hurt by an intimate partner. 1 in 5 female adults reporting it. In 2023 alone, Utah had the second lowest homicide rate in the United States. That's good news. And the highest percentage of homicides as a result of domestic violence. That's bad news. 1 in 3 female homicide victims died from a current or former spouse or significant other. In Utah, nearly half of homicides, again, related to domestic violence in 2023, and unfortunately that number has grown here in 2025. Now, domestic violence takes a lot of different forms, and the governor's office also notes that more than 1 in 5 students report being verbally or emotionally abused by someone they were dating or going out with in the past 12 months. That's people under the age of 21 who are students. Just it's something to think about. Develop healthy relationship skills, communication skills, conflict resolution skills. Seek social support if you're a victim or a perpetrator. Seek help. I mean, it is really important that we take this seriously. CAPSA.org for more information again. Appreciate Josh Thompson for stopping by. I hope you'll stick around. On the other side of the news, a spotlight on Logan schools. We'll actually talk to some teachers about how the start of the school year has been going for them and how they plan for it. That's next, right after this look at the news with KVNU's We'll Feel Right.
Jason, Utah's Legislative Redistricting Committee met yesterday to discuss the new congressional maps. It's all a part of a court-ordered process following a ruling that the legislature must comply with Proposition 4 standards. Now, the 2008 Proposition Initiative had established an independent commission, which the Republican-controlled legislature later made advisory, leading to accusations of gerrymandering. Now, committee co-chair Representative Candace Perriucci asserted yesterday that the 5 GOP proposed maps do comply with Proposition 4 and were free from partisanship. However, Perriucci noted that the legislature legally cannot select a map from the original commission and may have to appeal the ruling now to the U.S. Supreme Court. Meanwhile, Nicholas Rossi, the man accused of faking his death to try to flee rape charges in the United States, was found guilty of rape in the second Utah case against him yesterday. Now, Rossi, who was the subject of an international manhunt after he was reported dead back in 2020, was finally arrested in Scotland in 2021 after being recognized at a hospital while receiving COVID-19 treatment. Now, Rossi gained international attention for his claims that he was actually an Irish orphan named Arthur Knight and had never been to America. Now, he fought extradition, claiming that he was being framed, but ultimately lost his appeal and was returned to Utah. He had previously been found guilty of sexual assault in another Utah case and is now awaiting sentencing on both cases. And yesterday, Utah Governor Spencer Cox announced GSL 2034. It's a new public and private mission to protect the Great Salt Lake as its levels near an all-time low. Now, the charter calls for all Utahns to commit to conservation efforts aiming to restore the lake ahead of the 2034 Winter Olympics. Now, the launch includes a $200 million funding pledge, as Ducks Unlimited has committed to the first $100 million over the next decade, and local business leaders have launched the Great Salt Lake Rising campaign to try to raise the remaining $100 million. Now, Cox said that he will not let the Great Salt Lake fail, as it's a part of the soul of Utah. Now, the funds will support projects to lease water rights, reduce consumption, and remove water-sucking invasive plants. Now, the state is working right now to build on conservation efforts that have already directed over 288,000 acre-feet of water into the lake since 2022. Well, it's been a gorgeous afternoon as we've enjoyed sunshine, clear skies, temperatures in the low 80s, and with the beautiful fall colors, it doesn't get much better, does it? Well, tonight we'll see temperatures drop into the mid-40s. Tomorrow, more sunshine with temperatures expected to be back into the low 80s. Heading into the weekend, low 80s to start off the weekend, then a chance of some scattered isolated showers on Sunday, and cooler weather coming for the first of next week. And bringing you our weather on the 6s is Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning, helping you to feel the love at Mountain Valley Heating and Air. If you have a new system, well, that's no problem. Mountain Valley Heating and Air can service it for you from residential to commercial. They handle it all. Check them out online at mountainvalleyhvac.com. And I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News headlines.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Dave Packer. Former FBI Director James Comey indicted by a grand jury. Right to ABC's Catherine Falders with the latest.
3 counts were sought here by the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Lindsay Halligan, and were told by sources that the grand jury indicted on 2 of those 3 counts that she was seeking. 1 of those counts is false statements, presumably to Congress, given that this is what this investigation centered on. The second was an obstruction charge. That's all we know right now.
This comes just days after President Trump publicly demanded that his Justice Department bring charges against Comey and other political opponents. When the previous U.S. Attorney in Eastern Virginia, Eric Siebert, declined, Trump ousted him and replaced him with Halligan, his former personal attorney. She brought the charges. On his social media, President Trump calling today's indictment of Comey, quote, "Justice in America." This is ABC News.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Are you on your feet a lot? When traveling, do you find yourself sitting for long periods of time? Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical, and we have compression stockings that can help you. Our compression stockings are designed to improve circulation, reduce swelling, and provide unmatched comfort. Come check out all the different styles and fabrics. These aren't your great-grandparents' compression stockings. That's why we're excited to offer an amazing deal. Buy 3 pairs of compression stockings and get a free care kit. That's right, 3 pairs of compression stockings and get a free care kit. Come into any of our 11 locations and invest in your health this winter by embracing the benefits of compression. For more details, visit us at alpinehomemedical.com. That's alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness
Everyone has an estate, but do you have an estate plan? This is Jace Allen, Northern Utah's estate planning attorney. At Allen Law Office, wills and trusts are what we do. If you've been putting it off, now is the time to get it done. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your loved ones, protect your legacy, protect your assets. Start today at cashlegal.com or just search Allen Law Office. Wills and trusts are what we do. Allen Law Office.
It's been a crazy few months, with big rainstorms fueling the weeds in your lawn, garden, or empty lot, and the spiders coming inside to beat the heat. You need help. Let Logan Extermination take care of those pesky weeds and unwanted pests with an exterior lawn application and interior treatment for bugs. Call Logan Extermination today before your home becomes enemy territory. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
Weed control starts at $45. Interior spider spray starts at $95.
We're here with Chuck, founder of Dollar Loan Center. You always tell me it's worth the drive. What do you mean by that?
We charge so much less than payday or title lenders, and unlike banks, we actually lend money. Our locations are really nice, Craig. No bulletproof glass, plastic furniture joints. They're like the banks used to be. Clean, fun, great tunes on, and real-life staff who love to help. And if you don't want to stop in, you can complete your whole application on your couch via your fancy smartphone. But we sure would like to meet you in person and tell you all about Dollar Loan Center and how we can help you get more money for less money.
DLC lends up to $5,000 in minutes, and you can get your cash in person at one of our 70 locations, on our website, don'tbebroke.com, or even over the phone with one of our helpful, real staff members. You're gonna love Dollar Loan Center.
Licensed by the Utah Department of Financial Institutions. Subject to approval. Limitations may apply. See website for details.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Here in the studio with us for our monthly spotlight on Logan schools, we have Superintendent of the Logan School District, Frank Schofield, and teachers, Raya Dowdy, Jen Jensen, and Rachel Rondash. And I'm a fast writer. I wrote down what you, Jen, and what you, Rachel, do. Raya, I missed it for you. You are at what school and teaching what again?
I'm at Logan High School and I teach math.
Logan High okay. I got it all. Because I want to be able to ask specific questions about, well, especially math. Because I think that would be a very difficult subject to teach because it was one I was not good at. But I also have this perspective as I was good at the English subjects. In fact, I was really good at that. And those were always my worst classes. My grades were the worst in those because I loved it and I was good at it and I just didn't put in the work. Math was hard for me, and so I had to actually work at it and my grades would end up being better. And I think about that all the time from my teacher's perspective, how frustrating I must have been as a student. And so I kind of wanted to start out there because I think it's important for people to remember that not only are teachers human beings, obviously, but each individual student in that class is also an individual human being with a different way of learning, a different way of processing information, a different way of communicating. And I think few people actually step back and appreciate that when it comes to teachers. So I just wanted to say that as we begin, but maybe we could start off a little bit with how, since we're here at the start of the school year, how does one go about preparing for a school year with variables like that in mind?
Oh my gosh. I would say
I just like to wait and see who gets voted off the island first.
It's me. I would say all of the planning that goes into it is like, for me, I got to learn these kids' names before they walk in my classroom the first day. And so I'm like creating these little cheat sheets and I'm like learning their names and getting their faces memorized. That's a really big thing for me. But then you get to do the not so fun stuff, like the setting your expectations up. You got to make your slides, your posters, and all of those things that you're going to refer to throughout the year. Those need to be stapled in there.
Sure. And you're teaching at the middle school level, right?
Yes.
Is that a particularly difficult age a transitional
I would say
age?
they are sweet souls, right?
Sure.
They are forming and they're becoming human beings. I don't think they're all the way there yet. There's like this weird period where they're just not fully developed, not fully cooked, and so they're just like half human, is what I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
That honestly, I think, is a good way to
Yeah.
put it, because I remember being in middle
Yeah.
school, and I think on the other end of that spectrum, I think at the first grade level, the elementary school level, would be intimidating as a teacher, because you not only have the subjects, the education curriculum that you're teaching, but you're also teaching them how to be in school, right?
Yes.
And that has to be pretty daunting at the start of every school year.
First grade is a big year. They learn a lot in first grade, and it is hard. I focus a lot on building that community. We have morning meetings every morning, and we ask questions, and they bring in pictures of their families, and we do a lot of activities based around our school family, and it helps throughout the whole year, because we can always refer back to like how our school family should treat each other and how we need to be kind and help each other instead of teasing each other or whatever. But I love it, and they're darling, and they're so much fun. Yeah.
It has to be, I think, for teaching in general, fulfilling when you succeed at some of this stuff, because it would be daunting.
If I can
Sure.
add, first day of school is awesome across the school district. I have always, ever since I became an elementary principal, I have loved first days of school in first grade, because you have kids who have done their summer and usually not a whole lot of structure, which is great. Within 90 seconds of walking into the door, you have a class. You've gone from a bunch of kids who are just coming off summer break, and you have a class, and they're doing things together in structured ways, and they're learning, and it just happens so fast.
That's interesting.
It's incredible to watch. It is an absolute miracle, and it happens year after year after year, and I
That is
never
really
get tired of
fascinating.
watching it. It's absolutely amazing.
And it's somewhat counter-instinctual, right? If you've ever seen kids on summer break, at any age level, you would not assume that would happen, right? That first few days, at least, are going to be just an absolute circus. But it's fascinating to think of. But a lot of that doesn't happen by accident, right? This is careful planning and experience that go into this to create a classroom and welcome them in, and then say, okay, you've just had a fun couple of months. Now you have to sit here for a long period of time and learn things. But truly, there is a science to that, right? Have you had, maybe this is unfair this early in the interview, but do you have any maybe advice for up-and-coming teachers of don't ever do this experiences as you welcome kids back to school, things that have gone horribly wrong? No? Really?
Sure there is.
That's
I don't
impressive.
know.
I'm impressed.
We're just really good teachers. We know exactly what we're doing.
I think something I can think of, like, especially as a math teacher, like deep down inside me, I know the math. But
Sure.
at the beginning of the year, I'm not used to the kids and how they learn, and they're not used to how I teach quite yet. And I always second guess that I know what I'm doing, and that I know the math, and that I know that I'm teaching. And like you've got to trust yourself. You've got to know that you know it. And once
Sure.
you trust yourself, the kids trust you a little bit more, and that goes a long way. But that's my thing that I fall into a lot.
That is really.
Whenever I end a year, they're ready for second grade. They're ready to move on. And I forget that when we start a year, they're little babies again. And I want to
that
jump
makes
into things
sense.
so fast and like get going. And then I have to take a step back and be like, oh, they need like more time to do this. They need structure. They need examples. They need modeling. And then you just build it up from there.
Sure.
And sometimes I forget that step of just taking it back, because you have to start over every year.
That makes sense. That is. Question back to you, Raya. A question, because math, I know, is as a subject somewhat naturally structured. You move, through different points because one won't make sense unless you have the previous one. Things like that. Is that when you get a new class at the start of every year, and back to what comes up with English, whether they're in first grade, second grade, third grade, doesn't matter. Every student learning differently. How soon do you have a sense in the classroom of who's picking up quickly, who might need to do a little extra work? I was that student again that I think teachers looked at me and thought, "Oh, you are going to struggle," and they were right. But does that come quickly, with experience?
I think so. I've been tutoring math for a long time. So I've only been teaching for 3 years, but I've been tutoring math for close to 10 years, I would say. So I've gotten used to kind of telling, like, when kids are lying it, saying that they know what's going on.
Sure.
And being able to tell, like, pretty fast. Like, a kid's either going to be really quiet because they don't understand it, or really funny because they don't understand what's going on, or really funny because it's too easy. So I think, like, for sure, I know after the first test. So I try to get through the first test really fast.
Sure.
But pretty much the first day, like, you can see their personalities coming out. Like, are you coping with this being too easy, or you're not understanding it, or you're just right in the middle and you're getting it?
That is, interestingly enough, as a person who interviews a lot of candidates, that doesn't go away in adulthood. In the studio with us here today for our spotlight on Logan Schools, we have Superintendent Frank Schofield and teachers, Raya Dowdy, who teaches math at the high school level, Jen Jensen teaching first grade, and Rachel Rondash teaching the middle school level. And 3 different perspectives on starting a new school year in the focus here today on the show. And I hope you'll stick around. We'll be back with more of our guests for our spotlight on Logan Schools after. We are joined here in studio again by very special guests from the Logan School District. As part of our monthly spotlight on Logan Schools, we have Superintendent of Logan Schools, Frank Schofield, here in the studio. We also have a math teacher from Logan High, Ryan Dowdy. We have teaching first grade in the district, Jen Jensen, and we have teaching English at the middle school level, Rachel Rondash. And just an opportunity for us to talk about what it takes to be a teacher as we head back into the school year. And Frank, I know you and I have talked about this many times, that the preparation never really stops for teachers. The school year ends, but then you immediately have preparation for the next school year that begins. There are also other requirements of the job, trainings and things like that come up. But you have, in the end, a very short period of time to get ready for the next school year. And so I appreciate you all taking time out of what is probably the very busy time of year to be here today. And Frank, for you as superintendent, watching all of this at multiple schools, multiple grade levels and all of this, how does it feel for you to watch the school year begin each year?
I love it. I mean, first there's a concern: are the lights going to turn on?
That's why I was asking.
Is the food going to be served? Are you going to have a water leak somewhere? You have all of the functional concerns. Is everything going to work?
Sure.
Because over the summer, you're doing either construction or repairs, and as we were talking about the status of, some things here in the studio just at the start of the show. Sometimes you do repairs, and something's not repaired, and teachers are hoping that things are going to work on the first day of school, and the district office, you're just crossing every finger you have, just praying that that things work. And quite often they don't, and so teachers are then doing things on the fly. But I think at first you've got the stress of, okay, we're doing everything we can to make sure that things work on the first day.
Sure.
Air conditioning is on, please. The first day of school, stuff like that.
Yeah, we all forget how hot those classrooms are on the first few weeks, right?
Very quickly, though, as soon as you're watching school happen, so all that stress happens before school begins. Once school begins, students are in the building, lunch is being served, instruction is taking place. There's an urgency to get issues like that fixed and taken care of quickly.
Sure.
But they really fall into place, and what you see happening is great teachers doing great things with kids and providing positive experiences, and that just never gets old. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go. I can go to the high school and I can see, teachers connecting with kids. I can see it happen at the middle school. I see it in the elementary. And I had a supervisor years ago who told me, who had worked at all levels, and she said, Frank, you know, the one thing I've always loved is the kindergartner and the graduating senior want exactly the same thing. They just express it differently.
Interesting.
They express it differently and they expect it differently. But they want to be seen. They want to know that they're cared about.
Sure.
And they want to feel loved. So that's what every child wants. And it looks different at the high school than it does in first grade.
Sure, probably easier to get a first grader to admit it than a high school senior, right?
And first graders will come up and they'll like give you all sorts of hugs and loves.
Sure.
And you don't necessarily want that at the high school.
Sure.
So it's different, but they want exactly the same thing. And it's
That's
beautiful
interesting.
seeing teachers identify how to give them what they need in a way that's developmentally appropriate, professionally appropriate, and that's one of the pieces of magic that we haven't talked about so much with schools.
Sure.
But that is one of the incredible things that happens right away in the school year. The old,
That's very cool.
I mean, there used to be the story, and maybe they stopped doing this when these young ladies were doing their teacher prep programs, but you would get people to talk about you never smile before Thanksgiving.
Oh.
Because you got to go in and you got to be the tough teacher, and you got to get them in line. That's not how it works. And
Really?
teachers have figured out if you smile right away, it's going to go so much better.
Makes
You're
sense.
not trying to scare kids into compliance. You're trying to love them into learning.
Sure.
And that's so much more fun to watch.
That is honestly just fascinating to get to see this side of it and get some perspective on the start of a school year from those actually in the classroom. And I touching off of something you said, Frank, I in a conversation with a teacher once, I said, it must be so fulfilling to mid-school year, end of school year, see a student who was struggling no longer struggling. And I remember she said, actually, it's the same. She said, if it's a student who is struggling, who is no longer struggling, a student who was holding their own and is still holding their own, a student who was excelling and didn't stop excelling, either way, I feel like I did my job well. And I was wondering if the three of you could maybe expand on that a little bit, because those are, for the most part, the three types of students you're dealing with, right? In each and every classroom, every day. How does that make you feel when you see, for example, the student that's just there, does the work, maybe not A+, but it's A, and they don't struggle, and they're just, and you still get to say as a teacher, well, I didn't stop that. I encouraged that. I kept that going. I imagine this is a thought that goes through your head every day, though, right, with every student? So how do you meet the challenge?
I often feel like those students that are just right in the middle are the students that usually need to be seen the most.
Interesting.
You have your high flyers that are always doing what they need, like the best of the best, and you praise them and you love them and you
and if you don't, they'll remind you didn't,
yes,
right?
you do. And then you have your sweet ones that are just struggling through life and you give them your all. And then you have your quiet ones that just sit there and they do their work. And it's not always like perfect like your other ones. But I always feel like those are the students that need to be seen, that need that extra love. Because they're just coming in, doing the work, and then leaving.
Sure.
And they need that relationship and that connection. And I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And does that, to the high school level, does that hold up at the high school end of the spectrum as well, that same thing?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's where building the relationships comes into play, because then it's not just about coming in and doing math and leaving. It's about the talking to each other, and you've made a connection, and you're here to talk to people that care about you, and you know someone in the classroom cares about you. And then when everyone leaves, you're a little bit buoyed up, whether you like math or hate math. It was a good class period because you felt those connections. And the people, like you were saying, the kids on top that are scoring the highest and the lowest, they get a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. But those kids in the middle, when they still feel that personal connection, they still get to feel that.
Sure.
That attention, and they still get to leave with a good feeling out of the classroom.
That is, back down to this end to Rachel. I remember, and I can only speak from vague memories of a very long ago experience for me being in middle school. But I do remember at middle school, one of the challenges for me at least, grade school, being in school was new. Learning how to be a student was new. And once I got that down, I really enjoyed it. And high school, at the other end, at that point, I at least was convinced I had it down to an art. But I think that for teachers, I don't know. I appreciate you all coming in and giving us a little window behind the scenes of all of this to see what it takes at those young ages for a teacher to prep and to wrap a student's head around being a student, because we all forget there is kind of an art to that of sorts. So really appreciate doing this, and to you, Superintendent Schofield, for arranging it. And to our listeners, that again has been a spotlight on Logan School District. We do this once a month here in the studio, and we let Frank just kind of plan it out. So who knows what we'll be talking about next month. But if you have any requests, Frank, you mentioned this last time as well. But if you have requests, if you're a parent out there in the Logan School District or the Cache School District, we can do that as well. And you have something you'd like to know more about, something you'd like to see a deep dive done on, or just something you're curious about, let us know. We'd be glad to help out. And thanks again to Frank and all the teachers here in the studio. Thanks to our listeners as well. Coming up on tomorrow's program, the For the People movie show, and we've got Hollywood controversy to talk about. Big news on a couple of studios in a big fight over a franchise that has been a long time coming to the film screens. It's pretty interesting how much money is getting thrown around here. We'll talk about it all on the For the People movie show with Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com coming up on tomorrow's program. Hope you'll stick around. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.
Breaking news. Stimulating talk.
Here's what we do. The biggest problem we have is ignorance.
KVNU Logan. 610 AM and 102.1 FM.